a year. He says it's a dying industry. He also said it's inhumane. So he said he will put forth a bill to get rid of dog racing in West Virginia. There are two tracks, one at Cross Lanes, one at Wheeling. Sean Fluharty is a Democratic delegate from Ohio County. He read the piece, heard about it, and top of his head blew off, and he joins us on Metro News Talkline.
Good morning, Hoppy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So what's your pushback on Senator Carmichael?
Well, Senator Carmichael is absolutely clueless, as I think we all know, especially when this issue in particular, the economic impact. You would think as Senate President he would actually want to keep jobs in West Virginia. Senator Carmichael is advocating for elimination of 1,700 jobs in West Virginia, 1,100 of which are in Northern Panhandle, 66 kennels, produces a payroll of $4.6 million. That money is spent in West Virginia. Families raise their children here in West Virginia. They attend our schools. They attend our churches. And he's saying, no thanks, you're not good enough. He wants to close the door on it. He says it's inhumane. 95% of all dogs are adopted from the greyhound industry. How many are actually adopted in our shelters locally, Hoppy? I mean, he's just out here spewing a bunch of nonsense, which he likes to do, and we know really who's behind this. It's Gray 2K. They're the lobbying group. And who happens to be one of the main lobbyists for Gray 2K? Conrad Lucas, the former GOP chair. Hoppy, we know what's going on here, and it has nothing to do with good policy. It's all about politics.
Sean, would you concede, and look, I understand you being an advocate for a local business. I get that. Would you concede, though, that the numbers indicate this is a dying business? Look at the number of tracks. I mean, Florida's shutting down. That was the big one. They had 6 tracks. They're going to go out of business. Arkansas is having that debate now. There are only, after Florida, only 6 tracks left in the country, 2 in West Virginia. Don't the numbers indicate the business is dying?
Not locally. And that's where Senator Carmichael should be concerned. In the state of West Virginia, wagering has increased in the past year from $107 million to $112 million, a $4.3 million increase during that time, Hoppy, which indicates that this is an industry that's growing in West Virginia. And the reason for that is, yes, nationwide it is declining. We're one of the few states left. So I always hear Carmichael preach about how we need to make West Virginia more diverse and give incentives for reason to come here. Well, they are coming here in the greyhound industry because we are one of the few left. And once Florida shutters its doors, guess what? They're actually going to come north. We're used to people heading south from West Virginia. We have an opportunity for people to come north from Florida. So I completely disagree with his assessment. And I think not because of where I reside and where I represent, because facts and evidence show that it's a growing industry. And if we actually were good at policy making and being good representatives of the people, we would be driven by facts and evidence.
Sean, a couple of things.
Carmichael is not.
You correctly cite the Racing Commission figures show an increase in the amount wagered at the dog tracks from $107 million in 2016 to $112 million in 2017. I actually wrote about that some months back. A couple things about those figures, though. And this is from the Racing Commission, only about 13% of the wagering is done at the state's 2 greyhound tracks, Wheeling and Mardi Gras, on races at those tracks. The largest portion, 73%, is what's called the export handle, wagering that is done at out-of-state tracks or casinos on races at West Virginia tracks and the rest. So there's not, only a fraction of that is betting on the dogs that are racing at those 2 tracks. Does that change your perception of this?
It does not, because at the end of the day, we're still getting a percentage of the take for the state of West Virginia. In fact, the percentage of the take for the greyhound industry is actually greater than it is for the thoroughbred industry in West Virginia. Is he lining them up next? Is that the next one up? I mean, how many times we have to go through this, Hoppy? We just did it 2 years ago. The governor, and you know I disagree with the governor on just about everything.
I do.
But the governor, to his credit, the governor did the statistical analysis, realized he didn't want that on his conscience. He didn't want to lose 1,700 jobs, lose 66 kennels, $4.6 million in payroll, lose $2 million in tax revenue on a yearly basis, and realize that this was nothing but a propaganda-fueled machine, which we've seen take place. And at the end of the day, if we want to do what Florida did, last time I checked, Hoppy, the people of Florida voted, right? It wasn't political maneuvering by the Senate president of Florida. The people voted. Is that what he's advocating for now?
Hey,
to put it in the hands of the people?
Sean Fluharty is with his Democratic delegate from Ohio County. Push back on Senator Carmichael's call for the elimination of dog racing in West Virginia. Sean, the industry does receive a portion of the proceeds from casino gambling. It's about $12 million for the purse and about $3 or $4 million for the breeders. If the industry is as vibrant as you say it is, why does the industry need a portion of the casino revenue?
Why do they get that portion, Hoppy? Because it is not a subsidy. And Senator Carmichael is being very disingenuous. Taxpayers of West Virginia are not funding that money, Hoppy, and you know that. That money is raised at the casinos. Full stop. Raised at the casinos. The average taxpayer, if you don't go to the casino, guess what? You're not helping the greyhound industry. That money is raised at the casinos. The state then takes about 52%, which is ridiculous. We don't do that to any other industry in the state. And then a chunk of it gets sent back to the greyhound industry, which is a small portion, not a subsidy. So the fact that he's using the word subsidy is ridiculous on its face, because by its very definition, it is not a subsidy because taxpayers are not funding it. Only those who go to the tracks, and believe me, Hoppy, when you start looking at the tracks here in the Northern Panhandle, a lot of those individuals are out-of-state residents.
Could the and we always get in the semantic debate about a subsidy, but could dog racing exist if it did not get a portion of the casino revenue?
I believe that it could. Would it be as popular, and would there be the incentive for those to actually take part in the industry? Probably not. I mean, that's how this works. It injects enthusiasm and the deliberate intent to actually partake in the industry, whether you're doing it at the tracks here locally or doing it mobily. I mean, that's how it works. And that's how it should continue to work. And that's the agreement we put in place years ago. And this isn't something where he's just trying to end the industry because he feels like it's the right thing to do. It's clearly purely politics driven by propaganda. You've seen the ad campaigns. You're going to see them again. Gray 2K will come in. They already said how convenient that was, Hoppy. The op-ed comes out. I guarantee you Senator Carmichael did not draft that op-ed. That I will put everything on. I'm a betting man, Hoppy. I bet he didn't actually write that op-ed. It was probably written by somebody from Grade 2K, a lobbyist who will be here in West Virginia going around and greasing the hands of legislators.
Sean Fluharty is with us, Democratic delegate from Ohio County. The lawmakers most passionate about preserving dog racing are people such as yourself and those from Ohio County, those who have the Cross Lanes track in their district. Some of the Kanawha County folks are passionate about it. Beyond that, do you think there's enough political support in the legislature to preserve dog racing?
You mentioned the tracks might be here, Hoppy, but every single legislator, their districts reap revenue from the greyhound industry. That money comes back into the pot and it gets distributed out. It doesn't get distributed back out to just my representative field. It doesn't get distributed out to just Charleston. It gets distributed out throughout the entire state. We're talking about communities, especially in my Northern Panhandle, where city pensions are impacted, where city budgets take in this money. They deal with firefighter pensions and police officer pensions. So every single legislator, whether they think about it on its face, it's not my backyard. Actually, it is in your backyard.
Well, what is that number? Because the casinos make money, but dog racing doesn't make. What amount does dog racing? I should know the answer, but what amount does dog racing contribute to the state treasury?
Well, about $2 million in tax revenue last year alone, Hoppy, and that money goes back and gets distributed out.
Well, if instead of sending the 14 or 15 million to the dog racing folks, if you put that to state coffers, you're plus, and didn't take in the $2 million from the dogs, you're plus 12, 13 million.
Take that money out. That money is not going to go automatically back. That money is going to be part of the money that the casinos have raised. Why would there be an agreement in place that they're going to say we're going to shed $12 to $13 million and we're going to cut that out and it's going to go back into the pot? The casinos are going to fight back on that, and you know that, Hoppy.
Do you think the casinos? Let me ask you this: do you think
they're going to want to inject that back into where it's already being injected back into their area now? They're going to want to keep that money.
I need to ask
for the greyhounds.
Sean, I need to ask the casino operators this, but I mean, you're from there, you live there. Do you think the operators of the casinos, not dog racing, do you think they really care about dog racing?
I don't know. That's a question for them.
I'll ask them.
They should care about it, but at the end of the day, you know what they're really going to care about? That money. They're going to care about that money, and they're not going to let that go without a fight. If you think that's just going to go back into the hands of the general revenue fund, there's no chance in that, Hoppy. They're going to fight like tooth and nail to say, we raised it here, we're going to keep it here. That was the agreement that was in place, even if greyhound racing does get cut out. All
right, Sean Fluharty, Democratic delegate from Ohio County. Sean, always good talking with you. Thanks for coming on short notice.
Thanks so much, Hoppy. Appreciate it.
All right, take care. All right, we'll be back.